direct sowing versus transplanting. What do I do, and what do I recommend other people do? So, first of all, there's a bit of a context to this. If you are sowing seeds in nicely prepared areas that is plantable, then direct sowing is always the option I would choose, because it's the most natural method. It's the method that does not disrupt the plant in any way, and at the end of the day, we want plants that are more resilient and healthy. So if you are going through the process of growing in a pot first, a small tray first, then transplanting out, there is some root disturbance, and the roots themselves from the very young age of a little seedling don't get to play their full role when it comes to growing. You want that seed to be able to germinate in its final position and grow its roots as it should. So when it does that, you're going to have a stronger, healthier plant. Usually will grow quicker and require less watering as well, because it's got deeper, bigger roots. You'll actually see this as well in examples in your garden. You can do the same test in your garden this year, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You can grow a seedling from a transplant and plant it out in your garden. So it's got like a 3-4 week head start on the seed. And as you transplant that seedling out, sow a seed next to it. Sow a seed of the same variety next to that transplant, and watch what happens in a year. You'll be able to see clearly which one is more healthy, which one requires less care, one that just naturally is stronger and more vigorous, and at the same time which one requires less water, because that is, again, what we're going for when it comes to growing food. We don't want plants that are dependent on us adding so much to the garden. We want plants that can survive themselves and thrive on their own, so that we get better food as well. But yeah, transplanting is obviously very very commonly used when it comes to growing food, because it's got a number of advantages. You get a head start in the growing season. You can in a way be more efficient with your seeds. You don't have to just scatter so many seeds. You can do one per seed cell, and you can in a way increase your germination, because you are caring for the seeds a lot more, and you can regularly water and really focus on watering and giving them a warm environment to grow in, indoor, more forgiving environment. But even though that will help your seedlings grow to begin with, and you might have some very nice seed trays, some young plants that are just looking very healthy, as soon as they are put out into the natural environment outside, they are a lot less equipped to deal with the natural conditions. You want to have that plant ready to withstand any cold winds, any strong winds, any harsh direct sunlight, and heavy downpours. And if you are mollycoddling, babysitting this little seedling in some trays indoors in a nice controlled environment, you aren't even training it for its future final position. And it's funny, I've seen some pretty funny tricks that growers are doing to combat this unnatural environment, or a nice controlled environment indoors, to the stage where they are literally putting fans in their greenhouses to recreate wind, to make the seedlings stronger to wind, which is just, if we're going that far, to me it's getting ridiculous. To me, I want to do it in a very simple way. I don't want to do it in a very strange, unnatural way. But there is an argument for transplanting in some cases, and I may even decide to transplant some seeds, but I just do it on a very small scale, do it as little as I can, because ideally I want to be direct sowing everything, and ideally I want nature to be doing the direct sowing for me when the seed flowers and seeds the previous season. But yeah, the cases I would choose to transplant, and you might choose to transplant as well, is if you've not got a nicely prepared area to sow in. Say you've not got some nice loose soil, topsoil, nice compost, or you've got quite a weedy area, or you are actually going to plant in quite a thick mulch in the first few years, trying to establish your beds. If you're starting from a new piece of land, a new project, you might have to have a much thicker covering to begin with. And direct sowing, when you've got a thick covering or not a very nice plantable soil just straight out in the garden, it's a little bit more challenging, and you might not get as good germination. So growing in pots in a more controlled environment, getting some seedlings going, ready to the stage where they're still young, don't grow them on too big in the pot, still young, and then transplanting them out, you can sort of combat a lot of the natural forces like the difficulties of growing food direct from seed if you've got not that workable ground kind of thing. Also as well, if you are growing certain crops that require a long period of germination, say you're trying to grow something like peppers which take up to like 20 days to germinate, if you are direct sowing them in a position you're having to water them all the time, there is actually a chance, if you're growing it in certain ways, that weeds will just outcompete those pepper seeds. So sometimes it can be better to give them a head start, get them germinated without all the competition, because weeds will just... When I say weeds, I mean natural ground covering grasses. These might grow, the more equipped to grow fast in their, where they are showing up right now, whereas a pepper seedling might not be as vigorous as that kind of thing. So if you want to choose where to put certain seedlings and in a way compete with the natural surrounding cover, then sometimes starting from a seed tray is beneficial as well. And also, if you are in a climate where it is particularly cold, you have a quite short growing season, like where I first started growing food in the UK, northwest England, growing any or having any chance of growing these summer crops, like the tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, that kind of thing, we almost always had to start seeds in trays first to get a head start in the season. And there's a funny story of this actually. When I started growing food in England, I was experimenting with transplanting tomatoes and direct sowing tomatoes. And I remember transplanting some nice plants out that I'd been growing for a month or two before into the garden in mid-May, June sort of period. And I direct sowed a tomato seed directly next to where I planted that the seedling plant which I transplanted out. And the seedling plant, the seed grew so big and so fast in comparison to the transplant. It was actually pretty amazing. It was amazing to see. I mean, it was like a tomato plant was up here, and it was thick as well. I didn't bother pruning it, growing it up a trellis. It just grew like a big bush, and it had lots of tomatoes on it. But the problem was they were all green because the season was too short. Growing it nature's way didn't actually work in that case. So that is where sometimes you want to go the full natural way and grow from seed as much as you can, especially those summer crops that we all want to grow. Then sometimes changing the environment, changing your climate, which I've actually done now. We moved to South Spain where we can grow all these amazing summer crops, melons, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, without the need of a greenhouse, a long enough growing season where we can just direct sow in the final position and benefit from having that seedling in its final position young, seed, so it gets all its good root structure, which makes it much less dependent on water and just stresses the environment. So that's my take on transplanting versus direct sowing. Direct sow as much as you can because you'll benefit from the intelligence of nature, and if you need to, transplant, but I try and avoid it where I can.